The banks smashed the paper price down to 61.96. They want you to believe the rally is over. They want you to believe silver was just another speculative bubble that finally popped. They are lying to you. Not a small lie. Not a misunderstanding. This is a lie of omission so large it borders on criminal negligence. While you were staring at the COMEX ticker on Friday, while algorithms were dumping paper contracts in New York at speeds no human could react to, something happened on the other side of the world. Something that makes the price of silver, at least for now, almost irrelevant. In South Korea, behind closed doors, far away from financial television studios and trading floors, a quiet confirmation was made. A confirmation that changes the chemistry of the global energy transition. Samsung SDI, one of the largest battery manufacturers on Earth, just finalized the specifications for its new solid-state battery production line. The media noticed, but only on the surface. They ran headlines about 900-mile range. They talked about 9-minute charging. They framed it as another incremental breakthrough in electric vehicles. But they missed the single most important detail. The detail Wall Street has not priced in. The detail mining companies are not prepared for. The detail that makes a 1.1 billion ounce silver deficit look like a rounding error. Because the secret ingredient in Samsung's new battery is not lithium. It is not cobalt. It is not nickel. It is silver. Not a trace amount. Not a decorative coating. But a structural, functional, chemically essential amount. Enough silver to change silver forever. Enough silver to move it from a precious metal into a strategic energy metal. In this deep dive, we are going to expose the silver bomb Samsung just dropped on the global supply chain. We are going to walk through the chemistry behind the silver-carbon anode in plain language. We are going to do the math that the International Energy Agency quietly avoids publishing. And we are going to explain why Friday's price drop was not a crash. It was a gift, possibly the last one. Because the banks are playing a paper game, Samsung is playing a physics game. And physics always wins. This is the story of the silver-carbon revolution. To understand why this moment represents an extinction-level event for silver supply, we have to start with something very basic: chemistry. For more than 30 years, the modern world has run on lithium-ion batteries. Your phone, your laptop, the electric vehicle parked outside your house, they all rely on liquid electrolyte, lithium-ion chemistry. It works, it scales, but it has a fatal flaw. It is called the dendrite. When a lithium battery is charged too fast, or charged too many times, lithium ions begin to form tiny needle-like structures inside the battery. These structures grow like jagged roots. They push outward, slowly and invisibly. Eventually, they pierce the separator, the thin wall that keeps the anode and cathode apart. When that happens, the battery short-circuits. Heat spikes. Thermal runaway begins. Fire. This is why electric vehicles take 45 minutes to charge instead of 5. You have to slow the process to prevent dendrites from forming. This is why electric vehicles lose range in winter. This is why battery degradation is inevitable. This is why fires still happen, even with modern safeguards. For decades, the holy grail has been the solid-state battery. No liquid. No fire risk. Instant charging. Double the energy density. Every major automaker promised it. Toyota, Volkswagen, General Motors. Every one of them failed. Not because they lacked funding, not because they lacked talent, but because they could not stop dendrites from forming on the anode. Graphite anodes failed. Silicon anodes expanded and cracked. Pure lithium metal anodes were unstable and dangerous. Then Samsung SDI found something different. They discovered that a specific element, applied as a nanoscale composite layer, could regulate lithium deposition at the atomic level. Lithium ions could move freely, but dendrites could not form. The material was stable. It was conductive. It was scalable. That element was silver. More precisely, a silver-carbon nanocomposite layer. This is not speculation. This is not marketing language. This is published science. Samsung's prototype cells use a thin layer of silver mixed with carbon to act as a host structure for lithium ions. The silver disperses lithium evenly across the surface. It prevents spikes. It prevents needles. It prevents failure. The result is a battery that is smaller, lighter, safer, and dramatically faster to charge. But there is a catch. A massive catch. To make this chemistry work, you do not need micrograms of silver. You need grams. For the first time in history, silver is not being used merely because it conducts electricity well. It is being used as an active material inside the electrochemical process itself. It becomes part of the battery's DNA. And now the auto industry wants to scale this to millions of vehicles. You might be thinking, so what? Cars already use silver. Let's put that into context. A traditional combustion engine vehicle uses roughly 15 to 20 grams of silver. Window switches, seat motors, defrosters, electronic control units. An electric vehicle already uses more, roughly 30 to 50 grams. Inverters, Battery management systems. High voltage connectors. That increase alone has contributed to the existing silver deficit. But the solid-state battery changes the math completely. We are no longer talking about switches and wiring. We are talking about coating the anode of every single cell in a battery pack that can weigh nearly 1,000 pounds. Early estimates from Samsung's own technical papers suggest silver loading between 5 and 10 grams per kilogram of anode material. More aggressive estimates push that number far higher. Some scenarios suggest half a kilogram, or even 1 full kilogram of silver per high-performance long-range vehicle. Let's be conservative, extremely conservative. Assume solid-state batteries add only 50 grams of silver per car. That brings total silver content per electric vehicle close to 100 grams. The world produces roughly 90 million cars per year. If only 10% adopt solid-state batteries, that is 9 million vehicles. 9 million vehicles multiplied by 100 grams equals 900 million grams of silver. That is roughly 29 million ounces of new annual demand at 10% adoption. Now ask yourself what happens at 50% adoption. What happens if the average loading is not 50 grams but 200 grams? Suddenly, automotive demand alone begins to rival entire national mining industries. And this is where the story stops being about price charts. Because the question is no longer how much silver costs. The question becomes whether there is enough silver at all. That is the moment when markets break. The moment silver becomes structural, everything changes. Right now, silver demand is already stretched thin. Global mining produces roughly 830 million ounces per year. Recycling adds another 180 million ounces on a good year. Against that, industrial demand alone consumes around 600 million ounces. Solar panels, electronics, medical equipment, military hardware, add jewelry and silverware, roughly 200 million ounces. Add investment demand, coins and bars, another 250 million ounces. Even before solid-state batteries, the world is running a deficit. Between 50 and 100 million ounces per year are quietly pulled from above-ground inventories just to keep the system functioning. Now introduce the Samsung scenario. Assume a moderate adoption curve. By the late 2020s, say 20% of new electric vehicles use solid-state batteries. Assume electric vehicles make up 40% of global car production. That is roughly 36 million electric vehicles per year. 20% of that equals 7.2 million solid-state vehicles. Using the conservative estimate of 50 grams per car, that adds roughly 11.5 million ounces of new annual demand. Painful, but survivable. But that is not how technology scales. Early adopters are not compact cars. They are premium sedans, luxury SUVs, pickup trucks with massive battery packs. A Ford F-150 Lightning does not use a compact battery. A Cybertruck does not optimize for material thrift. If the average silver loading moves closer to 200 grams per vehicle, and adoption reaches 50% of electric vehicles, the math explodes. 18 million vehicles multiplied by 200 grams equals 115 million ounces of new demand every year. That is more than the entire annual production of Peru. That is the equivalent of a second solar industry appearing overnight. So where does that silver come from? The COMEX does not have it. Registered inventories are thin and shrinking. Mining cannot ramp fast enough. Global production has been flat for years, which leaves only two mechanisms. Price destruction, where silver becomes so expensive that jewelry and discretionary uses collapse. Or investment cannibalization, where silver is pulled from private hands and redirected into industry. This is the extinction equation. When industrial demand alone threatens to consume 100% of supply, silver ceases to function as a monetary metal. It becomes strategic, allocated, controlled. At this point, skeptics raise the same argument every time. Recycling. Gold is recycled at nearly 90%. Silver is recycled at less than 20%, not because it is unimportant, but because it is dispersed. Silver is used in microscopic quantities across billions of devices, a fraction of a gram in a phone, a thin layer in a solar panel, a nanofilm in a guidance chip. Extracting that silver costs more energy and money than the metal is worth. So it goes to landfills. We are burying silver faster than we can mine it, but in a form that is effectively unrecoverable. Now consider solid-state batteries. Yes, they contain more silver, but they also lock that silver away for decades. A battery built in 2026 will not be recycled until the early 2040s. The silver is removed from circulation for an entire generation. The recycling wave people are counting on arrives far too late to solve the shortages of the 2020s. The deficit is structural. The consumption is destructive. The sequestration is long-term, which leads to the only remaining solution, mining. And here, reality becomes unforgiving. You cannot print a silver mine. From discovery to production takes 10 to 15 years under ideal conditions. Even if a massive deposit were found today, it would not deliver meaningful supply until the mid-2030s. But Samsung needs silver now. Toyota needs silver now. Tesla needs silver now. Worse, existing mines are declining. In the early 2000s, a high-quality silver mine yielded 15 ounces per ton of ore. Today, 4 ounces per ton is considered good. That means 4 times more rock, more diesel, more water, more labor. Costs rise, output stagnates. Then there is geopolitics. Mexico produces roughly 25% of the world's silver. New open-pit permits are frozen. Peru faces recurring strikes and instability. Russia is sanctioned. Supply is constrained precisely as demand accelerates. This is a pincer movement. Exploding demand, contracting supply, no inventory buffer. When elasticity disappears, only one variable can move: price. This creates a paradox governments are not prepared for. They have mandated the end of the combustion engine. They have subsidized battery factories. They have promised net zero transitions. But they forgot to check the periodic table. If silver rises to $200 per ounce, solid-state batteries become unaffordable. Electric vehicles stall. Political promises collapse. So, governments will intervene. Silver will be declared strategic. Industrial allocation will be prioritized. Retail investment may be restricted, not because of ideology, but because national security always overrides free markets. Samsung is not just a company. It is the backbone of South Korea's economy. The United States will not allow Tesla to fail because of silver shortages. Silver becomes a matter of state interest. At that point, the market you thought you were trading no longer exists. Friday's drop to $61 was not fear. It was ignorance, because the chemistry did not change. The math did not change. Only the narrative lagged behind reality. And when narratives catch up, they do so violently. In the next phase, the question is no longer whether silver is scarce. The question becomes how to survive the transition, how to position before the panic buying begins. That is where the real story starts. What happens next is always the same. First comes denial, then confusion, then a violent repricing. We have already passed denial. Wall Street is confused because it is still looking backward. It is still modeling demand as a smooth line, growing 2% per year. It still treats silver as a legacy metal, something used in mirrors and cutlery, not something embedded in the future of energy. But technology does not move in straight lines. It moves in steps. Solid-state batteries are not an incremental improvement. They are a step function. The last time the market misunderstood a step function like this was palladium. In the early 2000s, automakers quietly switched catalytic converters from platinum to palladium. Analysts ignored it. Inventories drained. Then suddenly palladium went from $200 to $3,000 an ounce. By the time the spreadsheets updated, the metal was already gone. Silver is setting up the same way. The silver carbon anode is not a future concept. Pilot lines are being built now. Factories are being designed today around silver-dependent chemistry. Once that infrastructure exists, it cannot pivot quickly. Those factories lock in demand for years. This is why Friday's price is meaningless. Price is what you pay. Scarcity is what you fight over. When Samsung launches the first mass-market vehicle using this battery, when specifications confirm silver loadings publicly, the panic buying will not come from retail investors. It will come from procurement departments. Ford, General Motors, BMW, Toyota. They will not be buying paper contracts. They will be chasing physical supply, and they will not be bidding at $61. At that point, the market will attempt to ration silver through price. That is how commodities respond to inelastic demand. Volatility will increase. Narratives will become aggressive. You will be told the technology is exaggerated. You will be told substitution is coming next year. You will be told recycling will save the day. This is psychological warfare. The chemistry does not care about headlines. Silver either prevents dendrites or it does not. And right now, silver is winning. That brings us to the uncomfortable truth. This transition is not optional. Energy and transportation are converging on silver at the same time. Solar panels and electric vehicles are pulling from the same finite pool. When two megatrends collide inside a constrained supply chain, markets break. This is not about speculation. This is about physics meeting geology. The world cannot electrify transport using silver-intensive batteries at current prices. That means prices must rise until behavior changes. Either consumption slows, or supply is redirected, or both. Historically, when metals become strategic, access changes before price does. Allocation replaces availability. That is why understanding this early matters. Not to trade the chart, but to understand the direction of history. In the 1970s, oil shocks reshaped geopolitics. In the 2000s, rare earths became weapons of leverage. In the 2020s, silver quietly joins that list. not because it is rare in the crust, but because it is rare in usable form, at scale, at speed. Friday's smash was not strength from the banks. It was desperation. Paper markets can suppress price temporarily. They cannot manufacture atoms. The silver carbon revolution does not need belief. It needs material. And material is running out. When future historians look back at this moment, they will not focus on a chart. They will focus on a lab in South Korea where a thin layer of silver changed everything. They will note that the warning signs were obvious. Published papers, patent filings, factory timelines. And they will ask why so few paid attention. The banks were looking at the weekly candle. The engineers were looking at the periodic table. Only one of those determines reality. The price will catch up. It always does. Until then, silence is deceptive. The loudest moves happen when no one is watching. And by the time the story reaches the front page, the opportunity is gone.